Welcome back for another update episode. My goal is to find an infinite stream of dividend income. I'm using Robinhood Gold margin, high yield ETFs, a foundation fund to keep everything steady, and my forever fund, SPYI, that I hope will pay me for decades. Stay tuned and I'll let you know how the week went. Nothing I say here today is financial, investing, or any other type of advice. I am not a professional, and you need to do your own due diligence for your investments. Let's get started. At the time of this recording, my account value is showing as $2,273. For the week, that's an improvement of about 1.5%, dropped down to about as low as a minus 0.81% for heading up at the end of the week. Because PAAA is such a large part of my portfolio, it minimizes the amount of fluctuation that I have. If we take a look at my margin status, you can see that I'm still in the low risk category, 11.69% above my maintenance threshold, which is probably about as good as it's been. Maybe early on in the experiment, I could have been somewhere around that, but I don't think so. Let's take a look at the margin screen. Remember, I took out a $1,000 margin loan, and I'm not paying any interest on that because I'm a member of Robinhood Gold. That's one of the perks. So I do pay $50 a year for that membership, but since I'm a member anyway, I consider this a free loan. Otherwise, the current annual percentage rate would be 5%. I currently have $981.81 in margin used. If we scroll down and take a look at the positions, you can see that the maintenance ratio is 25% for all of them except for NVII, which is 35%. And those percentages essentially tell me that Robinhood is not terribly concerned about these investments. Otherwise, Robinhood would crank up that maintenance ratio, which would prevent someone from buying as much of these particular ETFs on margin. I don't really have to pay attention to the maintenance ratios because this is a small account. I'm primarily concerned with the $2,000 margin minimum. Here's a look at all of the positions in the account sorted by market value, going from high to low. You can see PAAA dwarfs the others in market value at over $2,400. The next biggest position, CHPY, followed by SPYI, really only about 10% of that amount, with some tiny amounts of cryptocurrencies at the bottom. These were rewards from various Robinhood promotions, and they're just lumped into the account. If we sort this by Friday's change in position value, we can see that BLOX was the biggest gainer on Friday, up over 3%, CHPY up about 1.5%, and that's just for the day. I've charted Monday through Friday's price return on Seeking Alpha. The S&P 500 here in blue is just for reference. It was up about 1/3%. SPYI was just behind that at 0.32%. NVII was down over 3%. CHPY was up almost 3%. And BLOX was down about 0.5%. On June 2nd, I received my PAAA dividend, a little over 19 cents per share, so I received a little bit more than $9. That was reinvested back into PAAA in its entirety. Let's scroll over and take a look at the other dividends. NVII paid me $1.78 at almost 24 cents per share. I split the dividend in half, 89 cents into each bucket. 89 cents into SPYI was combined with other dividends and reinvested. Since this is less than $1, I'll need to wait till next week's dividend to combine it with this week's before I can reinvest back into NVII. BLOX paid me 12.36 cents per share for a total of $1.14. Same thing was done with the dividend, split in half, partially reinvested, and the other half is waiting for next week. Finally, I received 62 cents per share from CHPY for a total of $1.82, and half of that will have to wait till next week to be reinvested. So when I combine the three SPYI dividend buckets together, I get $2.37, and that was reinvested back into SPYI, bringing my share total up to a little under 4.5. If we take a look at the total return summary, you can see that the CHPY, formerly SNOI position, has almost pulled even with the initial investment. I initially put $250 in SNOI. Now since then, I've been reinvesting half of the dividends, and I've almost built my way back up to that initial $250. The BLOX position looks particularly bad, but remember, this was a combination of two of my buckets, so it had an initial investment of $500. So altogether, these high-yield ETFs are down about 42%. My SPYI position is up over $230, so when combined with these positions up here, portfolio is down about 18%. PAAA is not factored into this equation, and it's just continued to add value. If you take a look at my PAAA position log, you can see that the share price stays very steady, a little over $51 per share, and I just reinvest those dividends right back into it. And you can see in green when I've had to transfer additional shares into this account to avoid a margin call. So my account had a good week, but the big news was Friday's SpaceX IPO. Popped up about 20%, which I know made a lot of people happy. I decided to sit this one out. I have other accounts where I could have invested into the IPO, but I decided not to. Let me know in the comments, did you invest in the SpaceX IPO? How long do you think it'll be before one of the ultra high yield ETF fund families creates a SpaceX covered call or similar type ETF? And if you found this video helpful or entertaining, please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Remember, nothing I said today here is financial, investing, tax, or any other kind of advice. I'm just inviting you along my journey. If you'd like to learn more about my small account margin strategy, check out the first 5 videos in this series. Good luck hunting those infinite dividends. Take care.